Hello, fellow Amazonians. This is David from One Polo with another Seller Forum for discussion. Today we have a little interesting topic to talk about, and it's about a incident where a American seller of homemade sculptures for home decor were copied by a Chinese seller. And what happened is there's a seller that bought this sculpture from the seller in America, and they shipped it back to China, made a mold, and started reproducing the product in mass and at a lower cost. And as a result of that, the American seller started losing a lot of sales. And eventually, over time, the American seller lost a lot of sales. And before I get into this post, I want to explore a little bit about the mindset of the average e-commerce seller in China. And I have lived over in China for about 10 years. I have ran e-commerce stores on Taobao and 1688, which are both Chinese e-commerce platforms equivalent to Amazon or eBay. And I've learned a lot about the mentality and mindset and culture of the Chinese e-commerce that work and live over there. Before I want to get into that, I do want to point out that this is a generalization. There are obviously very competent and groundbreaking e-commerce sellers that make very genuine and new products themselves, but in the most part, I'm talking about the masses, and this is the average e-commerce seller's culture, mindset, and mentality. And what I've noticed is that majority of these e-commerce sellers in China, they want to be the first to second. That means that they don't want to be the first. They don't want to deal with the cost of exploring a market, seeing if their product ideas will work. They don't want to have that upfront cost, but they will be waiting and watching, and they have these software over there. They're in a way that they're scrapers. And as soon as there's a huge uptake in sales for a very unique product or category, that there's only one, maybe very few, 2 or 3 sellers, but usually just one seller, and they want to be the second one to be following this seller who found a niche market that they could really profit from. So that's where the idea of being first to second comes in. They want to be the second place as soon as possible. This way they can skip the cost of exploring a new market, and then they can just tap into this new market that's fresh and having a lower cost base, because they didn't have to deal with the upfront cost of discovering this market. Then they can undercut the original seller. And this way, they will get at least half the market share very quickly and instantly profit from this first to second strategy. Another mindset or culture that most Chinese e-commerce sellers have is that you have to employ black hat tactics to get ahead in the e-commerce marketplace. And this is very rampant on Taobao and sometimes 1688, but usually on Taobao and Tmall marketplaces. And what they believe is that you have to make fake transactions, fake reviews in order to gain any traction. And since that everyone does this, if you don't do it, you won't get ahead, you won't get impressions. The algorithm would not just pick you up because so many people are engaging in these black hat tactics. So in their mindset, if they want to be in e-commerce, they have to engage in these tactics, and they bring that culture over to Amazon, where it's very common for them to make these fake transactions or fake reviews. And there's a whole marketplace in China for these. You can just go in there and shop. There are companies selling at $5, $10 a review, or 50 cents a dollar for a transaction. So this is a very common tactic that Chinese sellers use because, well, that's just the way their culture is over in China. Okay, now with that in mind, let's go into this post. A Chinese seller duplicated my product and is selling as their own. First, let me state that I'm in the process of getting my brand registered and also working on a copyright of my design, but I'm not there yet. Yes, this is a wake-up call for me. I created this product 10 years ago, and it is my exclusive design. No one else sells it, nor has the ability to sell it, as I make it in-house. A Chinese seller listed my item about a month ago, so I placed a test order and received my exact design back. The end product was not up to par with mine, but they clearly got hold of my design, reverse engineered it, and took molds of all my parts and reproduced it. What recourse do I have? I really need my copyright and brand resolved so I can have some legal backing, but I can't make that happen overnight. They, of course, are undercutting me in price. How do we approach Amazon if my brand is not yet registered? Do I just have to wait for that to happen? My copyright is still 3 months from being finalized. Okay, so a little recap in what happened in this post. So this person has been selling this design for 10 years, but they're just starting to get around trademarking their brand name and copywriting their design or work. And this is quite unfortunate because from a very quick answer is there's nothing this person can do because they have no trademark on the brand. So the seller can just use their brand name on Amazon as they want or anywhere in the marketplace because there's no trademark on it. And as for the sculpture design, again, there's no copyright over this person's work. So therefore, copying it and making molds of it will really not be illegal because there's no copyright over this work. But before I get into what happens when this person's trademark and copyright gets finalized, assuming it gets approved, there are 3 ways that Amazon allows you to enforce IP infringement. And that is a trademark, a patent, or a copyright. And here's some textbook definition from Amazon on what each of these are. Copyrights are legal protections for original works of authorship. So in this person's case, once the copyright is done for this seller's work, which is a sculpture, then they can start enforcing their copyright on sellers who create replicas of this person's work of art. So a copyright would be similar to someone's song, and that's one of those things why we can't do those free online sharing anymore because songs are copyrighted because they are work of art. The next one are trademarks, and trademarks are legal protections for a word, symbol, design, or a combination of the same that a company uses to identify goods and services. And this is what most of us are probably more familiar with. If you're an Amazon seller, you probably have a brand trademarked because Amazon really gives you a lot of advantages for people that have brand names. And that includes A+ content, Vine, Voices, and a whole suite of other applications and analytics that you get over people selling generic brand names. So if you have a trademark, in this case of this example, if the Chinese seller has the same brand name on the product or on the packaging of this American seller, then this person, if the trademark is approved, then this American seller can go to Amazon Brand Registry and file a trademark violation. And this way, the Chinese seller would lose their ability to sell this product. And finally, there are patents, and patents are legal protections for inventions. And patents can break it down into utility and design, and obviously there's more that goes under those 2 sub-branches. But overall, patents are another great way for Amazon sellers to enforce their IP protection over Chinese seller knockoffs. And from our experience, the patent violation infringement is quite overpowered on the Amazon Seller Central platform. We have had complaints where the design patent was not even close to the actual product, but Amazon forced these Chinese sellers to choose a third-party arbitration to have against the violation claim of the patent holder. And most of these Chinese sellers will just give up and don't want to pay a couple $1,000s to go to third-party arbitration. And it's wild that from the perspective of a design patent, it has to be almost identical to the product you're filing infringement against. But when we're looking at this infringement violation policy, we notice that the design wasn't even close to being the same. So it seems that Amazon will tend to side with the patent holder and just let arbitration take its place. That's assuming the person who's filing the IP infringement is willing to pay for the third-party arbitration as well. And now it just becomes who has more money or willing to put up more money to keep selling. So that's what we notice with patent infringement, and that's and how powerful it can be to small time Chinese sellers. However, I do think that big time or just large e-commerce sellers with large volume and money and war chest will be willing to take that to third party arbitration. So keep that in mind if you do plan to weaponize this patent IP infringement system on brand registry. And finally, in order to file a trademark, copyright, or patent infringement, simply go to brand registry and report a violation. It's very straightforward, and all you have to do is follow the steps, and then you can file a policy violation to anyone who is violating your IP. Well, I hope you found this useful, and if you did, please consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. It takes very little effort from you and makes a massive impact on how YouTube ranks my content. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.